Hello everyone and welcome. We are running base kit warlock in the normal goblin caves today. We're doing it for a few different reasons, but before we get into why, let's take a look at the talents. So we are running soul collector, dark reflection, malice, and dark enhancement. We're going to be knowledge limited on our spells today, so we're only going to have access to 3, but we're going to be running curse of pain, life drain, and shadow bolt. In the caves today because I have a quest, the second quest from the woodsman to essentially kill giant bats. It's the quest named invasive species. So I'm here, I'm ungeared, and I'm experimenting warlock. But why am I playing warlock right now? It's really in response to the wizard being at such a strong place in the overall meta. Wizard's in a great spot, for those of you who don't know, particularly in the 3s comp and in the 2s comp in runes. They're doing really well. And from a design intent perspective, it seems that Iron Mace wants to position Warlock as a wizard counter. And right now, I think we effectively have, the Ranger that is able to, with proper positioning, counter the wizard a little bit. But I think Ranger isn't set up to do that by themselves. I think the developers really want Warlock to have an active role in the wizard counter. And I want to kind of explore that as the Warlock class is essentially still a work in progress. It's fluctuated wildly, and I'll tell you, more than any class that I've played, the Warlock plays substantially differently based on gear. At an ungeared state like this, you're really relegated down to being an enhanced melee combatant, and you'll see that I'm running Blow of Corruption here, just for the PvE clear speed. I think that Phantomize is probably the superior of the two talents on a geared Warlock, when you're full 5 spells and you're capable of pushing out some real, magic damage. But yeah, the talent selection here is specifically around kind of an end-game build that is all about stacking your Soul Collector to 6. And then having, those 6 charges waiting in your pocket to land a big Shadow Bolt or Meme Beam on an opponent. I also want to play more extensively around using the Magic Shield ability that the Warlock has and see if that, some sustained comps can kind of push through the burst DPS that Wizards, particularly with Magic Missiles, are able to put on anyone who, pushes them at all. It's really oppressive right now, just the fact that the mage can just plant their feet and pop magic missiles, and if you don't have a ranger with a headshot lined up on that wizard, then your front line is about to melt. And this is true basically at almost any gear level in the wizard. So yeah, I'm looking for kind of solutions to that problem, see if they exist inside the game. So we're playing a little bit of Warlock. Now, I've taken some damage here, and I don't have... I didn't bring anything in. This is base kit Warlock. All I've done is move the lousy crystal ball into weapon slot 2, so that I don't take as big of a speed penalty. And so I'm going to be going through here and kind of topping off using Life Drain, which is really good in certain situations. It is much better with a magic staff. The higher magic power of the staff effectively scales much better with Life Drain than magical healing. So this build, this template for the Warlock is relatively cheap to operate. You don't need to invest in the very expensive plus magical healing gear because you're not running Vampirism, you're not running Torture Mastery, so you don't really have to worry about the expense of operating this at the upper tier. This has been a really good moneymaker for me. Just leveling this guy up and doing some of the preliminary quests. You've got a pretty decent PvE clear speed. You've got some 1v1 potential. Running this builder really comes down to whether or not your opponent is going to allow you to hit them with a Blow of Corruption. Experienced players will either kite this out or block it. Ooh, I took that hit there. And that hit's going to kind of frame the rest of this match, I'm afraid. But yeah, Phantomize is a better ability, I think, at in-game, where you can recover from being pushed or from positioning errors that you make. And where your more sophisticated adversary is more likely not going to allow you to land a Blow of Corruption. But regardless, yeah, so now I am pretty low health. Hopefully these mummies have some band-aids for me. But it's been fun running the warlock. I think there's still a lot of potential here. I think it still needs a little bit of work. Before we talk about kind of the in-game build, you know, right now in this build I've got almost no ability to counter a wizard. I can certainly land, you know, multiple curses of pain, and I can get lucky with some mid-range shadow bolts. But if I attempt to use, you know, my primary ability, which is run in and hit Blow of Corruption, I'm just going to get melted under a stream of magic missiles, like, for sure. So, like, no ability to close, you know, is a problem, I think, for every class that's, you know, melee-based and looking at a wizard. Just real quick about Soul Collector, spiders count. This blew me away. I couldn't believe that spiders from spider pods allow you to quickly stack your Soul Collector, but this just in, it does in fact. These guys are also fantastic for topping off if you can find a spot where you're safe from them. And given that mobs in Darker and Darker have a very hard time looking upward, you should be able to find that no problem. But finally, what we're here for. We need these bats for the quest. I'm in the best room in the game for farming bats. I think there's 4 spawns in here. So I'm going to run around and grab those real fast. In terms of, like, operating this build in white gear, you know, versus base gear, there is a substantial step up in potency. Most importantly, if you're buying, you know, I guess 3 pieces of knowledge gear, or either from the tailor or the leather crafter, you are able to push Hydra, and that's kind of a game changer, particularly from a sustain perspective. If you've got a white staff and you're capable of dropping Hydra, you can basically drain that Hydra for, let's see, if you're at like 1 health, you could pop 4 or 5 Hydras in a row to essentially get back to full health using Life Drain. So that actually introduces some sustain. Right now you can see the sustain here is kind of weak with the crystal ball at the current magic power level. You know, I'm having to use it kind of incrementally to get back, you know, marginal amounts of health. But hey, it's better than nothing, right? A lot of classes have 0 sustain, so here we go. But to step back for a minute, I'm really looking to understand ways of countering the wizard right now. It's got a very strong spot in the meta. I'm hoping that I'm going to experiment around with Warlock and find something that's been overlooked with regard to any synergies, particularly around the magic shield, to see whether or not in a 3-man comp or a 2-man comp, they can be, you know, an important part of kind of countering an effective enemy wizard. Because right now, I mean, a really well-played wizard is really hard to deal with. I'm interested in any thoughts that you guys have, any experiences you guys have. Please comment below. If you have experience specifically with running the magic shield on the warlock, it is kind of expensive for what it is, but for those of you who don't know, it's basically a protection spell, which, you know, the cleric has that puts up a bubble, the green bubble the cleric casts that protects against physical damage. This is essentially, you know, a purple bubble that the warlock can cast, and it will protect against magic damage in the same way. I'm looking to explore that right now. I'm not running a build that has the knowledge to push it, and it is kind of expensive from a health perspective for the warlock, but once again, when you're geared on the warlock and you're draining your hydras, you're getting a tremendous amount of health back. So I don't know how big of a deal that's going to be. But I think from a design intent perspective, Iron Mace is looking at the Warlock to be a wizard counter, and I'm kind of putting some faith in that design intent to see if that is viable right now, or whether that's something that's going to come when Warlocks get, you know, additional perks and talents added. Right now they only have 2. It is Phantomize and Blow of Corruption. So surely they will be getting more at some point, we just don't know when. But it does seem like the class intent is to kind of counter magic damage to a degree. So this is awfully suspicious. 1, it's dark. There's 2 unused portals. Ah, there he is. Oh, he allowed me to get that headshot in. Surprising. Alright, he's got his rage up. I'm going to kite it out. He's going to break the door. I'm going to land a spell. I'm going to miss a spell. He's going to throw some axes. Alright, so far all of this is going exactly according to plan. Now I've got 6 charges of Soul Collector up. This Shadow Bolt is going to hurt if I'm able to land it. And I did. Right to the chest. He's got a hammer. That's... Oh, and a Blow of Corruption Falchion headshot is all it takes. I think he was probably low health. But don't underestimate the impact of that Shadow Bolt plus the 6 stacks of Soul Collector plus the Dark Magic Enhancements, a 10% flat increase magical damage bonus. That's going to hit hard. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please like and subscribe. It helps me a ton. I'm interested in any feedback you guys have about the Warlock, about the Wizard, some successes you've had in terms of countering them. And, wow, I hope I get out here. Not even close. Alright, everybody. Good fortune to you in your raids to come.